I'm 53 years old, and I was born and raised here on a reservation here. So we lived, we live like north of here, north of Rosebud back in those days. I was born over there in Millette County, and then coming out of a two kettle Tioshbai, two kettle clan. Then we moved back this way into, back into Rosebud area here when I was a small little boy. We lived in Parmley for a while, where my grandpa is. Then my mom's side, my mother's side, we moved down to Spring Creek, and that's where I learned the language. Probably I'll say about 3 or 4 years old when we arrived in Spring Creek area, and that's where we started going to school, my first grade and like that. So first grade over to 7th grade, from 1st to the 7th down to Spring Creek, and then from 7th to 8th some other Nebraska places like that. But I end up over here in St. Francis here. I finished high school back in May of 1968. After we graduated, there's a war going on back then, and so mostly all my classmates we end up in Vietnam. Matter of fact, I can name 5-6 guys here from here that we see each other in Southeast Asia. So graduate out of here, we went overseas. We come back from that Vietnam War experience and like that, and then then after that, I was in school for a little while in the University of Nebraska back then. Then I come back, and then I was in school in University of North Dakota in Bismarck over there. Then I come back here, and then here and there. But that's a little bit of my background, and I was born and raised here. I learned from my mother, from my mother's side. One of his relation is a medicine man. His name is Felix Fourhorns, and on my dad's side, his dad is Tom. Tom Spotted War Bonnet, and I learned from him because he usually, when we were living in tents, he used to come down in the wagon, team in the wagon, and we'll help him haul wood and stuff, back in those days. So yeah, I learned a lot from my dad's side, from my grandpa, and then my mother's side, grandpa too. Family ties are real important. I always pat myself in the back saying that I learned the language and I learned the traditional way of life here on the reservation, and I always honor myself because so I can talk the language. And what I'm saying is, some of these people can't understand or can't speak it, see, even though they're born and raised here. And in that return too, we should return it back to our own people and our kids and our takojas. But sometimes I think we neglect that. My kids, they can understand it, but fluently they can speak, here and there, but they can understand because they're raised by my mother. So, something that I learned, and I never regret that. It's my language, and Konkashila, helped me to understand and learn how to speak it. Frank Arasai used to be a medicine man here. He used to live right back there, and he's real unique individual because he always walks too.
he don't have no car or nothing, so he'll be walking. And this one was a dirt road back then, gravel road back then. And I remember it was a team and wagon back then, going towards Rosebud. Yeah, Frank Arasite, he died a long time ago, but he went to jail a couple times for it because they caught him participating. I mean, he's setting up a sweat lodge and have the people go to it. And he said, let my people all go to it like that. He protected the people like that in that way. Back then, he says, the black robes come in. He says, the black robes come in and they set up schools like this one. He says, set up this St. Francis schools, he says, and they're prohibited to do sweat lodge ceremonies and Sundance ceremonies. So sometimes they do it on the sneak, like they go way out and they have a sweat lodge ceremonies, but underground, in other words, underground, like that. See, that to make sure that the government don't find out that they're doing that. Because if they do, then if they find out, then he said this might be a severe punishment or even go to jail. They usually put them in jail, he says, back then. So that's what he says back then. Right before we graduated in May, that would be like April, my mother set up a house ceremony and a sweat lodge ceremony for me. The reason why is that while the medicine man, Shagman, that's his name, and he says that the spirits told him that I'm going into a fire. Ile elelo. Ile means fire. In other words, there's a war. So what happened is, prior to going to the service, the medicine man told me that I was going into a fire. In other words, fire means bullets. Bullets will be flying, and that's fire. The 7 rites that we have, first will be the chanupa, the pipe that we go by, the sweat lodge that we have, the house ceremonies that we have, the keeping of the soul, we got that, and when you in the ceremony you give the name giving ceremony that we have, in a traditional way, and the other one of them will be like keeping the soul. When somebody dies, you wait for 1 year. Then when that 1 year comes around, and you celebrate too, and then like that, and then the 7th one is the releasing of the soul, the releasing of the spirit that we have, that you waited 1 year and you let it go like that. So these 7 rites that we have, and one of them is the piercing. That's one of them. So these 7 rites that we have, and the rituals that we go by, and that's traditional, connected with the traditional way, with the pipe, traditional with the pipe, like that, put together. And here in our traditional ways of life, they give us a pipe. The legend goes that way back then, before the horses come, these two warriors were going down. They were starving. They're on foot. They don't know where the buffaloes are to hunt, and like that. So what they did is that they were walking towards the prairies and trying to focus on and scouting where the buffaloes are. These 2 men come up upon here appeared a woman to them, and this woman
is sacred, and he's like an angel, you know. He appeared from nowhere saying that I have a bundle here and I want to introduce into your people because this is sacred. And inside that bundle is a pipe. And there's various names for it too. Some call it peace pipe and all that. See? But to us, it's a sacred pipe, which is given to us by Tongashila, God, Jesus, or whatever you want to call it. But they give us by Tongashila, saying that if you need of help, if you need of prayers, if you need to contact, you know, the other world, which is the spirits, and if you want to need to pray, here's a sacred item that you can pray with. And that's where we're at. And we still got it today. We have it up north in Greengrass. So that's where we're at.
It means something because they choose us to. They choose the original pipe, the Lakotas, to come this far and able to survive, you know, and able to survive our tongue. Hechina Lakota wongu laka mungoki, and able to communicate the next world through the pipe. So that's one thing that we're grateful to have. Okay. And up to this day, up to this year, man, we still have it.
We try to go by the original instructions that have been given back then, and we still carry it today. The tobacco that we use is out of Mother Nature. You know, we can get that tree and get the bark out of it and boil it, and according to the medicine man, you can cure somebody. So the tobacco that we use in the pipe is, they call it chonshasha. It's a red willow that you take the hide off, take the second hide. You take the top hide off, and then there's a second hide, second skin on it. So you scrape that off and mix it up with herbs, mix it up with leaves, sacred grass, herbs. You mix that up and you use that.
Well, the process will be like first you put your bowl and your stem into the bowl and put the stem together, and then you smudge it down, and then you pray with the tobacco. Well, the chashasha we have, the red willow that we have, that's the one we smoke it in the pipe. So you pray to the directions. You put a little bit and you pray to the east or west, and then you put it in a bowl, north, then east, south, like that. Then you pray to all the directions. You put this red willow in a bowl, and then after that you turn it clockwise, you turn it around, and then you say a little prayer to the original pipe that's over there in North Dakota, and then you commence on smoking the pipe. When we always have a clockwise, because of the traditional way that four directions. You go towards your right, facing west. So you always want to go clockwise. So you go west, north, east, and then south, like that. So you always want to go the right directions, they call it, in a traditional way, towards the right. And that's how we make our circle. The medicine wheel, which is a circle, then each direction facing the like the direction facing west, north, east, like that. And then the round part is the medicine wheel, which we believe in the never-ending life. We have three things, they say. We have our minds, and we have our heart, and we have our nari, the spirit that we have. as they were dancing, and my father says, I'm gonna go to the sweat lodge area. And I says, I want to go with you. So he says, come on. So I got up and we went up to on the west side of the arbor. They have some sweat lodges. So we went over there and we were standing around, and as we were standing there, I asked some questions. You know, what is that fire? I mean, and my dad says, these are rocks. They have these rocks on fire, so they can go into the sweat lodge with it, like that. So as I was standing there, you know, a couple of people were coming out from the arbor, and they were coming. This is sun dancers. They were coming towards the sweat lodge area, and they said they're gonna go in. They're gonna go into the sweat lodge. So as I was standing there watching, they took their skirts off their, you know, like the dress. They took that off, and then there's a guy standing there and watching the fire with a pitchfork. So he says, give us 7 rocks, you know. So as these 2 guys go into the sweat lodge, these guys putting 7 rocks in them one at a time, like that. So, you know, that was my first time that I see people going into the sweat lodge area, and inside. So that's what I see back then. And he explains it to me like, one of these days you will participate in one of these things. And I says, do I? And I says, yes, you will one of these days. And he finally, and that's what he says. And
the sweat lodge is my church, just like the church right here. According to the medicine man and traditional ways of expressing your prayers and your feelings like that, a sweat lodge is our church. The medicine man and the spiritualists, they say, if you're in need of help, if you need of prayers, you know, you can go in a church and pray, because we pray to just one God, you know, one God only, and that's where we stand. So what happened? Remember, I told you four wood this way, east and west, and four wood south and north, like that. Then you put 1 rock towards the west, north, like that. As you do that, you pray. Then after you put 7 on, one by one, and you pray, then you put the rocks on them. Remember, you fill it up. Okay, number 1 will be west. Number 2 will be north. Number 3 will be east. Number 4 will be south. Number 5 will be towards, you know, God, Jesus Christ, Sangashla. Then number 6 will be towards down the earth, and number 7 is for the people. And so there's 7 of them. Yeah, we put after we do that, then we put all the other rocks on. Remember, we add it on. Yeah. Well, I pray to the west, like you pray to the thunder, the horse society, the clown society, Heyoka, and then you know, you pray to the people for their good health and a good mind, and like that. Then you pray to the north. There's an original pipe that we have up north, so that signifies the pipe that we have. It's a replica, so we pray to that pipe, and then a Buffalo Society. Then towards the east, we pray to the Elk Society, towards the east. Then towards the south, we pray to the people that all the people that died. Remember, like I said, when we pray, when we die, we go towards south. So like that, we pray to all the people that died like that. Then we pray towards up, Jesus Christ, God, or whatever you want to call it, Tunkashila we call them. So you pray to that for enhancement of that day, enhance of the good health and the good strength for the day, and then put the rocks. And then the last one is you pray towards the Mother Earth, the rock, Mother Earth, that you help us good health today and give us enough strength to make it tomorrow like that, enhance us. Then we pray that we put it on top. And then the seventh one, we pray that this one here is for the people that are live and people that are live alive today, and they come to the sweat and enhancing their well-being, their good health, Uchozani and Woki. And that's our seventh one.
When we go into the sweat lodge, it's a small small hooch made out of willow sticks or sometimes ash, and it's a small little house that we all go in, and then they bring the rocks in. First 7 rocks to all the directions: west, north, east, south, up towards the sky, for the Jesus, God, or we call it Hankashila, like that. So they brought the 7 rocks in, then towards Mother Earth. Then we sing some appropriate songs that the medicine man had. So we go in there, and there's 4 rounds of each round they open up the door. The first round, the second round, the third, and the fourth, like that. But what happens is that we pray to God, saying that we give thanks to Almighty that we live today. Okay? We live today, and then tomorrow, and like that. And the medicine man stress 2 things. First one is woke, they call it, meaning, sometimes you help yourself, somebody helps you, or you help somebody in that way. And the second is wichozani. Wichozani, these are in our language. Wichozani means when we go into the sweat lodge, we ask for Almighty for a good health for today, for this week, and on towards the year. So that's what happened. So what happened is the steam of the rocks that the medicine man put water on the rocks, and the steam that comes out, there's 2 things too. It purifies our mind and our body, like that. And we pray that way. It's hard to breathe in there sometimes, and it's real tight in there like that. So it's a strength that you come up on the sweat lodge ceremony, and that's how we go through. The first one I went to was when I was about like 11 years old. My mother, her brother named Felix Fullhorns, he's a medicine man. He died a long time ago. But I remember the first time we went in when I was about like 10, 11 years old. That's the first time that I experienced with the sweat lodge ceremony. I remember that there's a lot of old people in there back then. I went in with the old people. And I remember the steam. That's the first time I remember the steam, because when the medicine man poured the water on the rocks, the steam comes up, and I can't hardly breathe. So I had to say, open up the door, and then I got out. But that was my first experience, like that. So I have to be strong You know, there's a lot of steam in there to breathe on and like that. So, but it's hard. You know, it's a hard sweat lodge ceremonies. You know, like that. Well, there's an option when we go in. The medicine man and the old people that in there, they've been doing it for 10, 15 years. Some of these people, but they they cared for me to go in and purify myself that young, and they let me out of the sweat lodge so I can breathe like that. The second time I went back in was to pray for my brother because he's ill, he's kind of sick, so I prayed for him like that. So the medicine man asked me to go back in there and prayed for him. So that's what I did. Back in probably when I was probably like 11 or 12 years old, I was in school, and I was in St. Francis School, so we had a break. I mean, like it's during the summer, so my parents picked me up from the school. So of course that's like in May, June, like that. So we went home back to Spring Creek. That's where I lived back then, and when I was small, and my father and my mother says they're gonna be a Sundance, and I don't know what's all about back then. I was small, like that. So I said, Dad, can I come along? And he said, yeah, you could come along. So we went on top of the hill over to Spring Creek, old Spring Creek. There's two Spring Creeks. There's one upper and there's one lower. And the Spring Creek, the Sundance was held up in the upper Spring Creek hill. So as we were approaching, there's an arena with a brush on top, like that. It's like a big shade. So I asked my dad, I said, what is this? And he says, this is the Sundance. And I says, oh, okay, I was thinking to myself. So as we were approaching it, there's some people dancing up there in the middle. There's like maybe 10, 11, 12 people out there dancing. And of course there's a drum group sitting to the side, on the north side of the arena. So they were singing and they were dancing up there. Like I said, as we were approaching. So we sat down on the shade. We sat down on the ground, on the floor, on the ground. My mother, she had a blanket, so they put it down. So we sat down on top of it. So that was my first time.
How long did dance? Like first 4 days is purification. They say, you trying to go to head the sweat lodges every day for the first 4 days. Then the next 4 days will be sun dancing. So altogether is a record of 8 days of purification. You suffer your body for your vows. You suffer your body for what you prayed for, or what you want in life, and what are your vows based on? Could be, most of the time the vows will be based on good health and get help from one another, or from Tonkashila, up there, or get help from the spirits. Make sure that that during the winter you enhance your survival, you know, make sure your family's they're not sick or like that. So that's the main thing. Main thing is your health.
He introduced me into him and Shragman, Chief Eagle Feather, that's his name. And so they introduced me into, you know, are you ready to sacrifice your life, you know, towards Tongashila up that way? So yes, Felix Forns introduced me and teach me how to Sundance and do a Swillat ceremony. I'm not sure back then that I was gonna dance, but a medicine man asked me, like a crow dog, Kalishuka. He asked me if I ever gonna get into the circle, meaning that, like meaning circle into meaning sun dancing, and I says yes. Give me time to understand more fully, even though I'm fluently with the language and the traditional ways. I need to understand more about it. So yes, I got into it right away. Once I decided, my preparation is to get all the things that I need, like piercing sticks, feathers, and whistle and stuff, the things that I need for sun dancing. Back then, you ask your dad back then, and my dad get it for me. Or medicine. If you don't have anything, then the medicine will help you get that stuff. The first year, it's kind of hard for me because there's a pain involved in it, like that. But come to think of it, and prepare yourself, prepare your body and your soul and your mind into it, and after you pierce, then it's all right, you know. I pierced for just one day. Just one day of piercing is good enough. And like I said, there's a lot of things involved in it. There's the medicine will talk to you. What you prayed for, or why do you do that, or like that. He questioned you too, to make sure that you focus on your mind and your body. So like that, in that way. When that buffalo calf woman, way back before the Europeans come, this buffalo calf woman come and brought the pipe. And one of the rules was saying that she says, one of these days and one day, I'm gonna come back into this circle. So you leave one of these doors open for me, and preferably towards the east, because I'm gonna come from the north, then I'm gonna come into the east, and I'm gonna come into the east gate. So that signifies saying that these doors open for her on that particular Sundance, and all Sundances in that way.
But we didn't write any books. They put out by word, you know. They don't write books. They pass the word by mouth. And as it comes around, and as a generation comes around, we lose the traditional ways of life, some of them. The reason why the elderly they died, and what they know and what they experienced, what they took with them. When we die, our spirit lives on. We go around 4 days. They said around Earth, our spirit. Then after that, after 4 days, then we go towards south. They said we go towards south. Then we go up into the sky to the creation story that we have. Creation story says that we come from the stars. the black hole in the Milky Way. They said Big Dipper is our dad and our Little Dipper is our mom. And they said our soul lives in that black hole among the stars. And that's how we go back up there, they say. And that's our traditional ways of belief, the creation story that we have. When I die, I'm going up to the sky. But what we believe in is that we're only passing through here, they say. The medicine man said. We're only passing through here in life. As a human being, as an ordinary man. As an ordinary man, being a living human being. In reality, they say.
Being as a Native American, as a people from this country, you know, and all the laws all the natural laws that we go by. And me as a native of the Sicangu Warrior, Sican means thigh, Gu means burnt. So burnt thy people. So as a Sicangu Warrior, and as a Sicangu warrior myself, I'm a warrior. I'm proud where I'm coming from, you know, and where I'm from here, you know, and since I participate in that Vietnam War veteran, that I'm a freedom fighter of this country. We fight the freedom of this country and its people, and I'm a Sicangu warrior.
And of course, I'm a Lakota. I'm a Sicangu Lakota. I'm a traditional ways of life. I'm proud who I am, what I am, and where I'm coming from. And that's how I believe it.
Pogashila Petukule, which was on in a walk unkupo, which was Kujelo, Wakanja, Gan Oyate, Pogashila Petukule unkanvo, which was on in a walk unkupo, Ohechel, Owai Chilan Kukjelo. Ikte chashahon chapalot hugashla. Hochahe kia bon apetukile. Ao. Mitako yase. Ao, today, oh great spirit, today, there's a lot of sickness among the people of the United States and throughout the people of the world. I pray today to give us which holds on it good health and walk, help each other, help one another, or you help somebody, or somebody helps you. So Great Spirit, I'm asking you today for good health and well-being of the people of the United States. Thank you. Oh.